We're finally on Season 3 of Street Fighter 6, and with it have come lots of changes and balance patches. Character strength over the years have fluctuated, both due to developer interference and by player innovation. But as of now, there have been 3 different characters that have taken the spot of top 1, the strongest character in the game. Right now we're on number 4, but I want this to marinate a bit before talking about it. So let's go over this subjective listing and explore why each of these characters were the best. Season 1, The Wild Wild West. The launch of Street Fighter 6, before a balance patch and before the turbulent wind. Yes, the beta happened, but let's pretend it didn't. Launch Street Fighter 6 had a few characters that were very strong. Chun-Li with her forward and back medium punch, DJ Drive Rush with more damage, Blanco with his God button and level 2 nonsense, and Luke with his God button. There is an argument that any of these characters were top 1, an especially strong one for Luke. But as one of my shorts have claimed about a year ago, I think the best character in this era was JP. Johan Petrovic was very dumb. Even though this was before several universal changes went through, none of that was why this character was so strong. And it certainly didn't help that the game was new and players weren't as experienced with the mechanics or characters. JP is a zoner, with a variety of fireballs, stalactites, and stalagmites. The fireball itself, the high-low ghost, was actually not very good. Slow and loses to Drive Rush for some reason. But it made up for that by being able to hit lower overhead, but more importantly, being able to be faked. His stalagmites were able to shut down counter zoning, not interacting with the opponent's fireballs. They weren't difficult to perfect parry, so at least there was that. And of course, his portals. Not only does this make his corner game probably the best in the game, it also doubles as an approach option and a way to control the neutral. Combine these tools with his strong K normals, not exactly Dalsum limbs, but still very strong, and you get a character that is very effective at controlling space and keeping you out. And his crouch heavy punch was a consistent anti-air. And as of today, he still has all of these tools, albeit they're tweaked just a bit. But the strongest option that he had, the one specific tool that propelled him to his top 1 position, was this. OD Amnesia, the most powerful defensive option in the game. Normal invincible reversals cost 2 bars, beat strikes and throws while giving you a bit of damage on hit. But OD Amnesia was far scarier. On a successful activation, 2 bombs orbit your opponent, which can both go off for damage and big combo potential. Which means JP can dump all the meter he wants into this combo, giving him both side switch and massive damage. And if he has level 1, he can spend that to make himself completely safe on wake up with just a bit more investment in resources. A reversal that can take out half your health from the corner is very threatening. And he has the option to side switch off of it. Despite him being designed as a strong zoner with zoner tools, his best tool is a defensive one. Amnesia was so scary that JP players were willing to press stand heavy kick on wake up in order to steal back their turn for plus frames. The move was so scary that JP is able to get away with a 12 frame startup move with no properties on his wake up. But I'm not here to say that the character was without weaknesses, despite what I once said in the short. Slow walk speed means that once you get out of his button range, he's not very strong due to a dead zone, meaning he was forced to zone while still being susceptible to Drive Rush and unscaled Drive Rush light times. Crouch Heavy Punch is good against normal air approaches, but anything else from the air gives him problems. He's also very drive reliant. His zoning isn't real or scary enough without mixing in OD versions. But even in the God Button season, JP reigned supreme. But eventually, the game got patched, and not just adding in new characters or fixing auto combos. February 27th came around, and now JP was no longer top 1. He wasn't even really a high tier anymore. Amnesia got gutted, the scaling made the damage just not worth it most of the time, and that was the main change that brought him down to speed. And he got more scaling on his stalactites, and for 6 months his anti-air just didn't work. Now he's just a corner monster and a level 2 machine, after the Akuma in December 2024 patch, like so many of the rest of the cast. But once JP was dethroned, someone else had to come and take his place. Someone who had been simmering in the background for the first couple of months. But because the big scary JP is gone, now we can talk about top 1 Guile. Even on launch, Guile was a very strong character. But because one of his few bad matchups was the top 1 JP, it was really hard for him to make an impact. If the best character is a bad matchup, you won't be rated very high when there are other characters that don't lose as hard to him. So what makes Guile the best character in the game? The main reason is that he doesn't really have any weaknesses. I mean, he usually doesn't, but let me elaborate. Guile's fireball is very strong, and other than the universal options, there really isn't that much anti-fireball in the game. and because he can change speeds, it makes it difficult to get perfect parry consistently. And while pure zoning is weaker in this game, lack of chip and the option of the parry, Guile doesn't need to worry about that. You still need to get in on him because if you don't, he'll either set up Blade and get in for free, or he'll just drive rush behind the light boom and get in for free. Mostly the second one. And once you get closer, he has his very strong crouch medium kick. Very hard to whiff punish, while being very long and having potential follow-ups on counter hit and punish counter. His Sobot also has more range than expected. He can also throw out stand heavy kick, which can be confirmed into level 1. You can't just drive impact it. And while the low medium kick isn't cancelable, the OD flash kick and his side switch make his defense very solid. He can zone, he can get in, he can hit, and he can defend. His only bad matchups are the ones where they can get around his sonic boom. Now, I know for this period of time, Guile wasn't exactly winning everything, and that there was a very defined top 3 of Guile, Akuma, and Rashid, with all of them vying for the top 1 spot, but I still think Guile was the best. And Guile may not have weaknesses, but he's not perfect. His non-heavy kick buttons don't go very far, and it's not easy for him to get a rewarding whiff punish. Exclusive charge supers make his burnout game weaker, and being reliant on fireballs, no matter how good they are, does invite invariance. And perfect parry does make his booms much worse. He's one of the few characters that doesn't have a mutalist skill loop. He doesn't have strong corner offense. I know this is a hard sell, so I'll end with almost all winning matchups and great consistency even with his playstyle. So what dethroned Guile? Did he get nerfed down like JP, or did one of the other 2 characters get buffed above him? Neither. Guile actually didn't get nerfed for quite a long time. No, seriously, what is this? I know the Pickle Dude, Kaba, and John Gucci weren't winning, but seriously? Buffs? Come on. What brought Guile down was the introduction of this character, from the King of Fighters, Mai Shiranui. And all I can say about Mai is, thank goodness Capcom Cup was so close to her launch, otherwise everyone would have been playing her. Mai has one of the silliest tools in the game. Her OD fan was/is very oppressive. For 2 bars, she throws out a projectile that on block bounces up for another hit. When up close and in button range, you can perfect parry and punish it, but any further and you have to eat the second hit. This tool makes her the best at acquiring advantage in the entire game. Wanna get in? Just OD fan. There's not a lot most characters can do about it. But Mai isn't limited to that as her strengths. She also has above average buttons, a strong cancelable crouch medium kick, a big stand heavy punch, and a pretty alright stand heavy kick. Her conversions also give very consistent corner carry, where she can go and skill loop you in the corner. Not only can she get in, she's very strong when tangling in the neutral. But they wouldn't make a character without any weaknesses, right? Previous company excluded, obviously. So what are Mai's weaknesses? She doesn't have great damage, doesn't hit very hard. And more importantly, she is very reliant on drive gauge. If she doesn't have drive, she can't throw out her OD fan, and she can't cancel off of her strong normals. And her neutral isn't oppressive enough where she can be threatening without her OD fan. And if I left it at that, then the character would still be strong, but doesn't sound like something that would far and away be the best. That's because there's an additional tool she has that I've yet to mention. Mai's level 1 is different. After using the level 1, she gets 5 stocks that empower her special moves. And the issue with this is that it completely covers up her 2 weaknesses. Once you get your stocks, you get more damage. It means she doesn't have to worry about winning more interactions. And more importantly, she can freely let her drive regenerate. She doesn't need drive in order to be scary. Because of her level 1, Mai effectively becomes a character with no weaknesses. Do we see a pattern developing here? And even with the nerf to the fans in the next season, I still think she would have been the top character in the game if this guy didn't get his damage buffed to the moon. JP got put to mid to low tier, and Guile to high tier, while Mai is still comfortably top 2 with a real argument for being top 1. And now that we've went over each of these characters, explained their strengths and relative weaknesses, now I can get to the second part of the video. How did I choose these 3 characters as the best? How should we rate characters? The way that we do it, and the way that most people do it, is with a tier list. Ranking characters in tiers, with better characters at the top. So what needs to be considered in order to craft a tier list? Well, first, before anything, yeah, there we go. When constructing a tier list, I think it's important to consider 3 different criteria. The combination of the 3 form a cohesive source of information. And the first one I want to bring up is potential strength on paper. In a hypothetical perfect scenario, how strong is the character? Something like a fighting game is balanced for the highest level of competition. There's too much money on the line for it not to be. And in a scenario where each player piloting the characters are perfect robots, which characters would be the strongest? Which of them have the easiest time winning? Which of their tools will match up well into the other characters? All the things I used to describe why these characters were good. Character strength is entirely relative. Your tools in isolation don't matter because you're playing against other characters. If Street Fighter 6 only had Honda and Cammy, then Cammy would be low tier and Honda would be top tier. How is your range compared to the other characters? How much damage do you have compared to other characters? And how do your options match up into other characters? And the better you do against the majority of the cast, the higher up you go. And the better you do against the better characters, the higher up you go. The reason I had Guile and JP as top 1 is because their bad matchups, which is mostly Dalsum, was not a very strong character, which means the bad matchup isn't as impactful. The reason why Balrog was top 5 in the final season of Street Fighter V is because he either won or went even with everyone above him, with his bad matchups being mid to high tiers. Ranking character strength is mostly relative. But if we only look at these characters on paper, Guile would never lose anything ever. Perfect players wouldn't get jumped in on. So it's important to recognize the next factor, which is human error. And human error doesn't mean how hard the combo is to do, that's too specific to be something that applies to most characters. As much as we want to be, humans are not robots, which means certain things need to be taken into account. Jump in windows, whiff recovery, all the errors that players will make in their gameplay. I think if Ed was played with both players respecting one another, he's one of the strongest characters in the game. But because of human error, where he is susceptible to jumps, to drive impacts, and all sorts of options like that, it really brings him down in my eyes. And finally, the last thing to bring in is the meta report, the result of tournaments. Which characters are winning and which characters are not. And this is the closest thing to hard data. Despite all the theory crafting that the previous 2 points are all about, eventually some people need to actually go out and play, and get results. If a certain character is good, it just makes sense that they are heavily represented in tournaments. And if they are heavily played, it means they're good. Mai has been dominating big events, even after the nerf, and JP was quite represented before the nerf. But I think a pitfall that some players fall into is over-reliance on the meta report. Just because the character wins doesn't exactly mean the character is strong, at least to the extent that is represented on the tier list. Mena just won EVO, but I'm sure most people would agree that Blanca isn't even top 5. Analyzing meta reports takes a bit more nuance than character win equal character good. I'm sure Mena could have had a great run with a handful of characters. He didn't win because he picked Blanca, he won because he was the better player, and he did so much homework on Kakeru. Players don't always play the best character, sometimes they just want to play a character that fits them and they happen to place well. And sometimes, a player will perform, and the community will attribute that success to the character instead of the player. Japan hated Akutagawa's Manon so much that instead of giving him any props, they went and said that Manon was top tier, which I think most people wouldn't agree with. Just looking at a meta report will provide false positives. Ken won a lot in Season 1, but I don't think it was because the character was top 3. I actually would argue that he wasn't even top 5. Ken was winning because he was simple and familiar. People picked up on him early, and because of that, he got more results. JP was so oppressive because players weren't as comfortable drive rushing on launch. You cannot just look at a meta report. Raw data can be misleading if not contextualized. A good tier list doesn't just look at one thing. It takes into account all 3 factors in order to provide the best approximation of character strength. I know Guile wasn't placing the best, but his tools are just too much for me to discount him. Taking into account things like format, individual player strength, and even popularity, you can create a list that takes everything into account, and can be applicable for the people who need it. Quick side note, unless you're making it out of pools, tier lists don't matter to you. So that's essentially everyone. Play who you want, it's a game, so have fun. Final takeaway, consider all 3 of these things, and Ryu is still top 1.